We're live. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. And today's topic is how to pick yourself back up when something doesn't go the way you planned. Never happened to me, Will. How are you, brother?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Doing really well today. Good topic today. Good weather here in Dallas, Texas. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So everything goes the way we plan. Well, you just weird? Is that what's going on here?
No, there's this whole world that isn't idyllic as your world, Steve. There's a world out there where people have expectations. They have set dreams, and those dreams do not happen. And so, for all the other people out there that can't identify with your life, I'm going to talk to those people today, Steve.
Okay, well, I guess I'll endure it.
I'll try to understand as best I can about failures.
Yeah, just can't relate. Okay, so this is a Mindstate Marketing Hour, and it's based around this book, Marketing to Mind States. It's a practical guide to applying behavior design to research and marketing, and it's a book that helped me see marketing in a different way. Everybody generally approaches marketing with a one-size-fits-all, but what does Marketing to Mind States do? If you read it, you'll learn that people approach different things in different states of mind, and often they're approaching your solution to their problem in a certain state of mind that if you understood, you would adjust your marketing message to really help connect with them, help them feel understood, and to help them feel safe, right, Will?
That's right. Absolutely right. Using the power of behavioral science. Let's use all this information that's out there to better our businesses and grow.
So this show, we talk about how to use science to connect better with your clients, and you can learn more at themindstategroup.com. So growing from failure, how to pick yourself back up when something doesn't go the way you plan. I'm wondering, are we going to hear a story where this applied to your life?
We are, Steve. Yeah, what I want to do is start off today talking about one of the biggest, possibly the biggest disappointment I've ever had with my business. And it definitely did not go as planned. But like with all things in failure, you can use that failure to learn and grow. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how I did that. Anyone out there who, it doesn't have to be as drastic as what I'm going to talk about, but it can be anything where you're just feeling down because something that you're really hoping for doesn't happen. And there's psychological things you can do, Steve, that can help you reframe what's happening. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what I did and some things I've heard to help you make sense of those times, but then come out of it better, come out of there growing and with a growth mindset.
Psychological things, I think that often is like we're really wrapped up in whatever that expectation was that we were thinking was going to be the outcome of this. Maybe we drew the wrong picture in our mind or framed it away, and then it's like devastating when we can't or didn't pull it off. And there's psychological things we can do to bring ourselves back.
That's absolutely true. Yep. We're going to talk about framing effects and all sorts of stuff. But no, it's an important thing. Your experience around you is a direct reflection of the way you frame up the events around you. It is a direct reflection. There is no meaning outside of the meaning you give something. So we ought to control as best we can the meaning we assign things, the value we place on experiences. And if we're smart about that, then we can increase happiness, increase motivation, all sorts of cool things. But it takes some deliberacy. It takes a little bit of practice. But when you do, good things come out of it. Good things come out of it.
So we're often coached, hey, you need to think big. You need to set big goals. Be ambitious. Don't sell yourself short. But then when you fall short,
you feel short. You feel short. Yeah. So let me tell you about the story, guys out there. And maybe some entrepreneurs out there, you've gone through this. I know one person has already written me and said, I can't wait to hear this because I think you and I went through a very similar experience. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about my company. Back in 2018, it was the hardest year I've ever had professionally after almost 20 years of doing my job. And what happened was I was approached by a very large global company that many of you probably would have heard of. and they wanted to acquire me. They wanted to acquire my research company. And at first I'd never thought of the company as being something that was valuable enough to be acquired. But when they started talking about their vision was to be the McKinsey of behavioral science, like to own management consulting, if you will, but centered around behavioral science. So that interested me a lot because I want to change marketing, the way we understand marketing, the way we understand buying cycles through behavioral science. This is really appealing to me. So we went through the whole process, guys, of like setting the vision, talking about the vision, were they aligned? We then went through kind of talking about both companies, and then I got an offer. And then the offer letter was money that would change my life forever. It's life-changing money. And we didn't come from a lot, and we weren't that big, but this was life-changing money. So then we go through the whole process of due diligence. If you know anything about that, they have to look at your financials, question you on some of your decisions back from years ago, et cetera. But it's all part of the deal. And then we got to negotiations. And I mean, we went so far, Steve, as we actually went to clients jointly. Now, no paperwork had ever been signed, but we went to joint clients that, we both were working for as separate companies, and kind of let them in on the secret, right? We were trying to move fast, like I said, to become the McKinsey consultancy for behavioral science. And we went for this for months. And it was great. Steve, I loved it. It was awesome. I was like a little pet, and they're just petting me, right? They're just giving me my little pets. They flew my family out to France, to the UK to talk to some of their divisions. We had many, many conversations. We were traveling the world, talking to clients, doing trainings, things like that. And nothing had ever been signed, right? And we'll talk about this later. That is the kiss of death. People tell you never do that, but I love the company. I had not one time where I thought that this was going to go south. In any way, I loved it. Loved them, everybody. So I remember in negotiations, my lawyers are handling everything. And I get off a plane, and my lawyer says, "Hey, Will, why don't you come to my office on a Friday afternoon?" Which is weird for a lawyer, right? They want to be playing golf. He says, "Why don't you come to my office?" So I go to the office, and he's looking at the contract. He says, "Hey, listen, of course they're asking for things that we're not going to give them. But it's a part of the deal. We're going to get to a middle ground." But he asked me this interesting question. He said, "Will," he said, "you're making money on TriggerPoint, aren't you?" I said, yeah, we're doing pretty good." He goes, "Okay." He said, "And you're happy? Are you happy with what you're doing?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "So tell me one more time, why do you want to sell your company?" And that was a profound question that was surprising because he had been along for the ride. Like he'd been there. He was doing negotiations. He was looking at the contract stuff like that. And he sits me down. He just says, "Let me tell you what I see in the contract." And there's a lot of personal things that were going to happen to me in terms of my travel, my lifestyle. I was going to have to bring on 10x the number of employees that I ever had. So my life was going to change dramatically from a business perspective as well as from a personal perspective. They're like, "I see you traveling 48 weeks out of the year." That's what I see when I look at this contract. So if you guys know me, I talk about my family, I talk about my kid, my wife, my pet, and I didn't want to have a lifestyle like that. I deliberately have chosen not to grow because I want to be the family. I want to have the family, the career, but also the marriage that I really wanted to have. So I sat back, and that night I went to my wife, who had no idea any stuff was happening. We sat down on the porch because she had big dreams too, Steve. Like we talked about the money, we talked about the things we're going to do, and you get caught up in that cycle. Remember you said setting expectations? Mm-hmm. We were going to get some money. We're going to start doing some really cool things, we thought. And we sat down, and I told her what my lawyer said, and I told her I was having some reservations, and without a minute of hesitation, she said, "I believe in you. I don't believe in all this other stuff. So if that's what we need to do, that's what we're going to do." So I started thinking about backing out. My big thing, guys, I'm going to tell you about it. It was a horrible, horrible experience emotionally and mentally and financially on the company. Not because they did anything wrong, not that I did anything wrong, but I had these expectations. I was going towards those expectations, and they collapsed. And when those expectations that you set for yourself, when they collapse emotionally, I was distraught. Like everything I thought about for the last 9 months changed almost overnight. By Monday of that morning, I'm starting to think about how do I get out of this thing where on Friday on the plane I'm in first class, right? And so let's talk a little bit about when something this big happens in your life. And it doesn't have to be business, guys. It could be personal things. It could be health things. but how do you recover? What are the steps for you to recover, to try to learn from something and then grow?
So obviously you are having all these feelings, and the problem with feelings for me, it's like if I don't go discuss them with someone, then I only have my perspective, right? But then who do I go discuss them with? Because, I'm a guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Feelings are, it's just not something you go talk about with everybody.
Yep, I was raised that way too. I was raised from a World War II generation, where feelings were kind of bottled up,
Hmm.
and that's what I did. Because here's the deal, guys. I felt like I let down my family.
Mm.
I felt like I let down my wife, even though she was supportive. Deep down inside, I was like, I let her down, because this was the dream. This is an American dream that you guys probably heard if you're an entrepreneur. What you do is you grow a business, you start a business, to grow a business, to sell a business, and then you go live on an island. Like, that's the American dream that you hear again and again. And it's reconfirmed on social media platforms, and it's reconfirmed in the news that it's only if you're a billionaire do you have any meaning in your life, which is absolutely wrong. So I felt like I let down myself. I let down my staff, because all of a sudden I told my staff, we're going to be integrated into a much bigger company, give you much better career potential, new clients, travel all over the place. I felt like, even this is ridiculous, I even felt like I let down my lawyers and my consultants, which is so stupid because they were making money either way. But I felt like I let them down because they worked so hard on this stuff and they did exactly what I wanted them to do. And so through that process, when you feel like you're letting other people down, I questioned my confidence and my decision making, because I lost everything. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute, I almost lost my business as well during that process. So it wasn't just like, oh man, okay, I can just go back to my old business and start running it. It doesn't work that way, guys, or it didn't work that way for me. So I lost all my ability to think I could decide. And if you're in this paralysis, what do? Brother, I bottled it up. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my staff. Only person I knew was my wife, and I knew my lawyer had to know because he's actively negotiating. So I said, we got to stop the negotiations. So those are the only two people out there. The acquiring company had no idea. My staff had no idea, and I kept it inside for 2 weeks. I played the poker. I had a great poker face because I didn't want to acknowledge how I was feeling. I was trying to rationalize things. I was trying to figure out the plan, how to get out. And what it took was, I had a business coach, and we know each other really well. And at the time, he knew something was wrong, Steve. Like, he could just tell. We're just talking about the business. He's like, tell me about the acquisition. Where are we? And he knew. And he said, and he basically drew it out of me. And I started crying on the call. I haven't cried many times in my life. I started crying on the call because he gave me this space, because he kept asking, what's wrong? Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's in your head. What's in your head? Finally, I just came out and I started crying, right? And so it was awesome. He gave me space. But remember, like you said, his perspective is really important. We're going to talk about this. He gave me perspective. And the first thing he said, Will, this happens all the time. Happens all the time. And so what was great on that was, all of a sudden I felt like those feelings that I had about feeling a failure and the thing collapsing, it wasn't my fault, because these things happen all the time. In fact, I know companies that have done it 4 times with the same company. They keep trying. So he goes, this is not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of them. It's a reflection of the circumstances. And he said, the first thing you need to do is start talking about this more openly, because you're keeping all the stuff inside. It's not letting you move forward, because I was not moving forward. I just basically cut off communications with my staff, cut off communications with the acquiring company, and let a lawyer kind of basically stall things while I try to figure things out. So when I told my staff, incredibly supportive. They were like, in fact, many were like, oh my gosh, this is so great. We have something really special here. And deep down inside, we didn't want to do something different. Like, you were basically telling us we're going to go to this big conglomerate, and we didn't want to do it. So my point being is, just like in any kind of psychological processing, grief counseling, things like that, you have to allow space. You have to allow for space, grief a little bit, like process what's happening. There is grief. There's absolutely grief in that process. But then you have to try to move forward out of that grief. And sometimes that could take weeks and weeks. It took me a few weeks, not too many, because I had to make an immediate action plan because my business was collapsing, because I basically forgot about my business. So anyways, acknowledge your feelings. Do not bottle them up. Take time to grieve, take time to process, and then talk to somebody about this stuff. That was just a mentor of mine, and that made a huge difference with going into my next step.
So your next step was reflecting on the meaning that you were giving this. You had built this up like this. This was some thing that really was defining you personally.
So true, man. It is so true. I was going to head, what was being told to me, we're going to be in the McKinsey of behavioral science, and you're going to lead all the US, all the United States business, which was the largest amount of businesses, what they expected. So, guys, everything that happens in your life, you assign it meaning. You alone assign it meaning. There is no meaning of anything in any circumstances unless you give it that meaning. And I know it's really hard because we're emotional beings, and when things go bad, we provide meaning to those bad things, oftentimes in a negative space. So if something goes bad, it's our fault. If something bad, God doesn't love me. If something goes bad, the whole world has always been against me. Of course this happens to me. So we start putting meaning. I put meaning on myself. And I was really quick on this and saying, no. You control the narrative of your life, and you do. Let me give you an example. I was listening to a guy speak recently, and he got a very serious form of cancer a couple of years ago. And he went quickly down the path of, but I exercise, I eat all the right things, I take care of my body. Why me? Why is God doing this to me? Why is God inflicting me? What did I do? And he flipped it. This guy does this for a living. He helps other people flip these things. And he flipped it on himself. He said, wait. What if I got this cancer and it saved my daughter? Because my daughter was supposed to get this cancer, but I took it on myself. Totally different meaning. Now all of a sudden you're excited to have cancer, aren't you, right? Because I'll damn well take cancer over my son any day of the week. So he created this new narrative that even if it's implausible, right? But this idea in his head was like, I'm taking on this pain so my family doesn't have to take on that pain. And if that's what I need to do, that's a totally different way of reflecting on it. Another one was when I started my company, my wife and I were both at PepsiCo, and she was really not in a good place. She wanted to do something more in the church. And so she just wanted to figure out what was her thing. And she was taking some time, and all of a sudden my thing came up, TriggerPoint. And you guys know the story about it. And I was working at PepsiCo, and I got this passion for behavioral science and marketing, and I went out and I did it. And she was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, like, I'm the one who wants to leave Pepsi. Like, I'm the person who's been talking about this. But she reframed. Why are you leaving Pepsi? Because one of us had to have a job. One of us needed income, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing. You know that, right, Steve? So, but she reframed that. She said, whoa. What if the plan is that Will needs to be successful so that once he becomes successful, I can leave and do what I want to do? And she totally reframed that story. She totally created new meaning about Will's success is a precursor to my success. She didn't go into this whole thing about, God, everyone gets their dreams, but me, I'm the person who has to keep, living like this. So what I mean to tell you guys is that you have to reflect on what meaning you're giving it. And so this is what you do. You want to ask yourself in any situation, what could be true in this situation? What could be true? What also could be true? It is true that my company is now falling apart. It is true that I stopped making life-changing money, I thought, and it's true that I stopped that thing. What also could be true in this situation? Well, that reframe was like, wait a minute, I chose not to do the money because I wanted my family to have a dad. Like, I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be home. I didn't want to travel 48 weeks out of the year. I didn't want to have 40 people under me. I didn't want to lose all my intellectual property and my passion to go become a CEO of a large organization where I'm thinking about making financials and things like that. I don't think about those things today. I think about my clients. I think about my passion. So what I want you to do is think about what could be true or what also could be true in this situation. For me, I was saving my family because my wife flat out told me, I married you and we had this discussion that you were going to be around for us and the family. We talked about that stuff. And we both came from families that needed that. So that was also, I needed to say, what else could be true? This is a plan for me to maintain that commitment I had to my family. So want you to think about reflecting on the meaning and making damn well sure you write down a list of what could also be true, because that's going to help you in the third part of this exercise.
When you say, think about what could be true, you're adjusting a feeling in you. Your brain believes feelings, not words.
Right.
And so when you're going, this could have actually been true as well. It makes you feel a different way, and your brain accepts that. So when you were telling that story, I was going, well, I don't know if that cancer, the dad saying, well, I took it to so that the arrow didn't stick in my daughter. I'm going, well, that doesn't sound right. But actually, he was changing the way his brain was perceiving his feelings.
Right. Because exactly what you said, feelings drive our perspective and our behaviors much more so than our rational minds. 95% of all decisions are made at the subconscious level. All behaviors have an emotional component to them, every single behavior. So you better know that emotion. Now, what's important about this stuff is as you reflect on the meaning and you said, okay, what could be true in the situation? Then start focusing on those that empower you. Because I could have said, what else could be true? That we're going to lose our house. That is not an empowering emotion to have, right? What also could be true is I said, wait a minute, this gives me the ability. A company just came to me and said that what I offer is valuable. And it was a confirmation that my hard work meant something to people. And so that belief right then is like, wow, I get to do what I know is meaningful to myself and meaningful to others. People find value in it, and I still get to have the company that I want. That's a totally different meaning and a different kind of perspective. But you have to choose the ones that have the emotion that empowers you, that makes you feel like you're in more control. So don't let the emotions control you. Use those, reframes those emotions to help empower you to get to a better place.
So when you say, ask yourself what is real in this situation, is this is where you get to beat up on yourself? That there's that person that's in the brain that wants to just tell you what a loser. Will, you gave up a big opportunity here.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's funny. There's that guy who's always on your shoulder. He's like, sweep him off, get him off your shoulder. We always have the doubt in our lives. We always will have a little bit of self-doubt. What I like to do is separate what is real in a situation versus what is an emotion. And you just talked about it a little bit, Steve. It's that we know that emotions drive our perspective, our beliefs, and our behaviors. So what you want to do is separate in your mind what is real versus what is emotion. So I looked at my company. So here's what I did, guys. Remember when I was being acquired, here's literally what I did. And they tell you never do this. So if you're thinking about, being acquired, or if you're ever in this situation, do not do what I did. I loved the acquiring company so much. I believed in what our mutual kind of joint, company was going to be, that I stopped working on my company. And that's the kiss of death. Until you have things that are signed and totally, the money's in the bank, don't ever stop losing focus on your company. But I did. I stopped marketing because I didn't need a marketing budget. Why would I need to market to anybody? I stopped going to conferences. I started to present to their clients, as a matter of fact, right? Because I thought we were all going to be a company soon. So what happened was it created a vacuum in my business, my pipeline, where I didn't talk to clients for 4 to 5 months, really. I didn't try to push any business because why would I want to do a bunch of work when I need to actually, I want to live the high life, Steve, right? I want to take some of that money. I want to do something different. I want to relax a bit, and you cannot do that. So here's what I did. I've created a vacuum where I had no leads. I had no funnel coming in, no prospects coming in. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, wow, I need to go talk back to my old clients and remind them that I still exist, even though they hadn't heard from me. Even rumors were getting out in the marketplace saying that we were being acquired, et cetera. So what I did was I said, let's sit down and think about what is real and what is emotion. Thank you, Cecilia. I miss you. And what I did was I said, what is real? What reality was, I had no pipeline. I had absolutely no pipeline. And I had no investment in marketing. That was real. I did not do any marketing for about 5 months. What was also real is I knew that previous to this acquisition, I went around to my clients just because, you want to figure out how your clients are doing and if they like you. And so what I did was I asked them, what did you like about us? And they told me again, we love your research. We love what you're doing. We love what you're doing. So I knew I had a strong position. That's real. I knew I had a strong position with my company, and I knew I had fans. I had clients who believed in me, that had used me again and again. So what I started figuring out what is real and what is not real, the next thing I did is what is emotion? And it was all this emotion I had about clients are punishing me because I didn't keep going with them. I didn't try to, keep my company going. So I said, that's emotion. My clients don't know. The vast majority of clients don't really realize what you're doing. We get into ourselves. We think everyone knows about our company, our brand. They really don't. They don't. But I had this belief that the reason why I don't have any money or I have no clients coming in is because, the world is against me. I made really bad decisions. And because of this, like the marketplace is paying me back. That's ridiculous. That's emotion. There's no evidence that said that was true. In fact, I had evidence to the contrary. I had evidence from a year before saying my clients really liked me. So what I want you to do is, if you're in this situation, if you're looking at a situation where you're really confused, you're down on yourself, write on a sheet of paper. I do a T-chart. On the left-hand side, I say, what is real? And then on the right-hand side, what is emotion? And what is real is you can quantify it. You have evidence. You can say, this is exactly what's happened. This is my situation. You cannot sugarcoat that. On the right-hand stuff is stuff that you sugarcoat, good and bad. Figure out what's on that right-hand side, the emotion side of it, which we don't really know anything about. My clients hate me now for some reason. My clients they're hurting my business on purpose. Get that off, because that's not real. You can make decisions on things that are real, and you cannot really make decisions on those things that are emotional. You have no evidence. So ask yourself what's real in that situation, and that'll help us get to a much stronger place in step 4.
So number 4 is like get an unbiased perspective, but be careful who you're going to ask for that unbiased perspective.
And that's a great point, Steve, because the unbiased perspective from the acquiring company was so here's what they did. They thought it was a negotiation ploy. And so what they did is said, do you want more money? If that's what you want, like just say you want more money. And I was like, and it was tempting because there's a price, guys. By the way, there's a price. there's enough money that you're like, okay, I'll travel 48 weeks out of the year. I'll hire a pool boy to do it. Just kidding. But there is a point. So what you want to do is get unbiased perspective. Now, by this point, my staff knew, my lawyers knew, my M&A consultant knew, my wife, who's incredibly supportive, knew, and my family knew at that point, like my mom, my brothers and sisters, and importantly, my business coach. So my business coach and all these people kind of started telling me perspective. And here's all the perspective came down to. If I chalk up everything that they told me, and I will tell you the same thing, you have to think you're playing the long game. You are playing the long game. And when you're in the moment, in those 9 months, I was playing a short game. I was always focused on these 9 months, get acquired, and then I'll figure out the long game. The long game is your whole life is long, guys. You got a long life. You're going to come in and out of relationships, in and out of businesses, in and out of clients, in and out of everything, parenting, everything. So what I heard again and again is you must play the long game. Especially, remember, even my business coach said, Will, this happens all the time. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this company doesn't come back to you another time and another time. Like, it happens a lot. So you're playing the long game, and this is a short bump. And I know it's hard for some people to get over. But even think from a spiritual world, I think about I'm playing a very long game, like millennium, right? So I think about that in my spiritual life, like I'm playing a long game. But in my business world, I think I'm only in increments of 6 months or 3 months. Like, that's ridiculous. Think the long game. They gave me that perspective. So then I said, okay, so every time I had a conversation, I said, what would you do next? Not what do they think I should do? Because I think they have all the information. They all come from different worlds. I said, what would you do next? You're in the situation. You know the situation now. What would you do next? And they gave me ideas. And they're unbiased. Like, they're not trying to make money off me. It's my family. It's what maybe my lawyer is. But that was it, right? They're giving me perspective. Like, if I was you, here's some things you're doing. They were all over the map. But what I was able to do is, because the exercise before saying what is real in the situation, which was what was real is I left everything so I could become a better father, a better husband, a better person. That was real. And so those perspectives that people gave me, that unbiased perspective, had me realize those things that would help me become a better person, better husband, better father were the ones that I wanted to focus on, because I just left money on the table, lots of money on the table. So I got the unbiased perspective because they helped me paint possibilities. They helped me paint possibilities because those possibilities do not exist in your world. Because at the point, I'm still dealing with confidence issues, right? I wasn't sure about my decision making. I went to a point where you don't even look at your wife in the eye because you feel bad. Even though she's so supportive, I wouldn't look at her in the eye, Steve, because I felt like, how can you look at somebody in that when you had all these visions of beach houses and stuff like that, and they all went away in a basically overnight. So you need other people's unbiased perspective. They'll paint you possibilities. Take those possibilities into the final step.
And that final step is make a plan of action on how you're going to move forward with this lesson.
Yeah. So one of the first things I remembered was when you feel pain, and you'll know this from a behavioral science perspective, when you feel pain, what you want to do is go back to where you were before. That's all you want. It's like COVID. We all want COVID. Oh, let's just bring us back to where we were before. Those days are gone. You will never be the same person you are. Not if it was something really big, not if it was as big as something like that. You're not going to be the same person. So what you have to do is plan forward. Given the new reality, given the new perspective, given where my business was, my financial situation, all these things, I couldn't say, well, I'm just going to go backward. I was scared to do that because I'm smart enough to realize that way of living was pre all this 9 months of experience. But I had new perspective. I had new evidence. I had a new calling about how to take my business to a place where I could live the personal life that I committed to on an altar, when I married my wife. So move forward. Things are different. So I said, how will you react to situation moving forward? And only after doing this, only after saying I have to move forward with all these new realities, did I feel comfortable enough to say that I can create a plan to get my business back into shape. And then, it took months and months, guys. We were down and out, but we got there. We got there in 2020 or 2019, 2020. So we got back to kind of where we wanted to be. Especially was the best part about it was before this, I was growing to grow, Steve, because that's what America tells you, grow to grow. Grow your business to sell. I just walked away from that dream. I just walked away from it. So I said, that's no longer the goal. Why would I have done that? I wouldn't have walked away. So what I did is say, I'm going to grow in a way that is kind of to who I am as a person, which means a smaller company, limiting things. I wanted to teach more because I learned more about teaching. So I wanted to teach more. And now, this now, Steve, I have a whole other company called the Mindstate Group because of that. I did not have that company before the acquisition. But during the acquisition and after the acquisition offer, I started realizing how much I love teaching. Started teaching at Texas A&M. Started my program about partnerships where I work with companies to teach them the things that I know, as opposed to what I was doing before, which is research projects. So make your plan based upon what you've learned, the reality of what you learned, and then just got to move forward. You have to try to move forward, even if it's a small incremental step.
Wow, there's some details there I didn't know. I didn't know they were flying you and your family around the world.
Oh, they're giving me little pets. I got dressed up. I almost said the name of the company, but it was. They give you pets, man, guys. They give you little pets. They scratch your ears. They tell you how smart you are. It's a good feeling, man. If you're ever down, go ask somebody to acquire you, even just for a week, because they give you. They say nice things about you. The worst part, Steve, is this. It's due diligence, right? It's when they look at your so we noticed that in 2016, you expensed a printer. Why'd you do that? Like, that was my company. What the hell are you talking about? But they go after you. They make you feel like, because that's when they're trying to lower their acquisition price. So they're questioning your decisions. Like, wait a minute, you just flew me out to France. Like, what happened to the Eiffel Tower picture? What happened to the champagne at the Eiffel Tower? Like, what happened? That's when the financial people get involved. So no, there's a lot of little stories like that. There's a lot of little stories like that.
That's excellent. All right, guess what time it is?
I think it's 3-question time.
Yeah, it's time to watch Will dance a little bit. So we got a comment here. So Kenny was telling that this was such an excellent story.
Oh, thanks, Kenny.
Hunter saying, thanks, Will. That's it's been fantastic. Isn't that cool how folks really resonate when you kind of open up and share experience that you went through and how you felt?
Man, I wish somebody would have shared with me before I started my company. I'm telling you, there's a book there. We've got to figure out that book, Steve, where somebody would tell these stories so that you be prepared, because I hate learning on the fly.
Oh, that's so true. You, I don't know why. You gotta lead a team. You have to lead your family. You have to lead a business, but then you also, it's so powerful when folks know that you're going through something or something didn't happen right.
Yep, it is. We need more stories like that.
I think it makes you, well, it does. It makes you more human.
It does. Which we like here in the Mindstate Marketing Hour.
Yeah, so why are you scared being so more human? Will, are there any tricks that you've learned over the years to help keep your emotions in check? Like you bite your finger?
A little bit. Well, the fetal position cry in the shower. That's one of the things. No, I'm gonna give you some advice, and I don't know if there's psychology here. I do 3 things. One is the 24-hour rule. I do this in my marriage. If my wife does something, we talk about this. If she does something that I believe is a slight on me, I give it 24 hours before I say something. Because I'm smart enough to realize that many of our behaviors have nothing to do with the person we're doing it to. It's about us. We're either scared, we're afraid, we're being egotistical, etc. So I give the 24-hour rule, which means if I still feel the same way 24 hours after something that was annoying or something that my feelings were hurt, then I'll say something. So it goes against all the rules that marriage counselors tell you, like, you got to get out in the open. Don't go to sleep. If you're mad at your spouse, don't worry about that. Go to sleep. It's fine, right? Give it 24 hours. Second thing I do is, well, I just said, what is real in the situation? That's a really important one for me. What is real and how I'm feeling versus kind of the situation. And the third thing I would tell you guys is always know this. People's behaviors are always a reflection of themselves, not of you. People are always thinking about themselves. I am only thinking about myself the vast majority of the time. It sounds selfish, but it's reality. Even when I'm trying to be nice, it's because I want to feel good about myself. So if you realize that other people's slights, other people's, when they attack you, whether you have a Twitter troll, whatever, it's about them. That will help you keep your emotions in check. I don't get angry when people give me bad reviews on Amazon, even though I want to, or if it's not fair. I'm okay with that because it's about them. It's not about me. That's how I keep my emotions in check.
I like that, the 24-hour rule.
24-hour rule.
It's been like, I use the 24-year rule, you know.
Yeah, it's all bottled up, Steve. It's all bottled up. It's going to blow.
What do you think will be the most important factor for success in marketing research in the future?
This is not unexpected. I believe it's the power of applying behavioral science research methodologies, tapping into, whether you want to call it non-conscious, subconscious, system one, processing, etc. I think that is absolutely number one critical in the future of marketing research. But more importantly, there are lots of methodologies out there that can figure out some of this stuff. It is the application side. It is the helping your brand managers, your creatives in-house, your innovation managers know how to apply these insights to grow business. You must become a behavioral change agent. I don't care if you're in research and you still believe that your job is to provide insights. You are out of a job. You are out of a job. You are not meaningful. You must explain to the organization how to change human behavior to grow top-line sales, top-line revenue. So application of behavioral science and using behavioral science in your research methodologies, that's your future.
Excellent. All right, last one. You ready? You dancing? So
I see it. Okay.
What is the best way to learn about behavioral psychology so that you can use it in business? This is an easy soft pitch.
It's a soft pitch, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What's so funny is it's not reading all these books that are behind me, though you don't see that many of the books today. There they are. There they are, Steve. I did it the hard way, which is I became fascinated and I was just obsessed with behavioral science. And I read multiple books. I mean, so many books. I don't even bore you with books to try to figure out kind of what I believed. I don't think you have to do that anymore. There are too many programs out there. I would go to a real legit program that teaches you some of this stuff. Now, I love Texas A&M University's Applied Behavioral Economics program because I teach there. I teach behavioral marketing there. I love it because it's very application focused. Melina Palmer works there. She teaches her course there. A lot of great things out there. So I would go professional and say, that's what you need to do. Or I have my own program, right? I have my own partnership program where I partner with organizations to apply these sciences to their actual business. I think if you read the books behind me, oh my God, I can't believe I did the point right. If you just read those books and try to figure it out on your own, it could take you a decade. It took me 19 years. So I think that you want to find a way that's already been established, right? It's through a program of some kind, whether it's Duke, Yale, whatever. And then the second thing if you can't find those, I have a partnership program that will teach you how to use these sciences.
Yeah, so that's called the Mindstate Breakthrough Sessions.
Thank you, Steve. That's where there's sessions where they start there. So let's say you're sitting back here and you're thinking to yourself, I know there's something in behavioral science. I didn't make my numbers. It's Q2 now starting. What are we going to do? You need professional help. You don't want to just try to coast and think about, well, maybe I'll just craft my email slightly different. I'll put in a different call to action. That's not going to get you long-term growth. What you want to do is talk to an expert. That's what these breakthrough sessions are about. So if you go to the mindstategroup.com you're going to see a whole bunch of red boxes that says book time with Will or breakthrough sessions. What you're going to do is click that button. You'll see my calendar. You book 30 minutes and we're going to get on a phone call, you and I, and we're going to talk about where you are today, where do you want to be in the future, and let's figure out if there's a bridge using behavioral science. Sometimes there is. If there is, I'm going to talk to you about that. Here's what I would do if I was in your situation. Sometimes there is no bridge. You have blocking and tackling issues. If that's the case, if I know somebody who can help you, I'll talk to them. I'll introduce you. If I don't, then I tried my best. But this is a way. It's a step. Remember, we just said you got to move forward. Move forward. If you're in a state of you didn't make your Q1 numbers, you want to do something different, move forward by talking to a mentor, talking to somebody who's been there, and hopefully give you some good unbiased perspective and advice. There you go. I'm getting unbiased. Thank you, Steve. I was like, what is that word? Unbiased perspective. That's my job is to do for you.
Great job. Well, this has been a good one. We had a lot of comments, a lot of likes. So
good.
So excellent. So we're going to roll out here. Did you guys know this? That you can listen to this Will's Got a Podcast, and it's on Stitcher, iHeart, Amazon, everywhere. It's Marketing to Mindstate. So Mindstate Marketing Hour. And be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Watch more if you like to watch instead of listen. Will, good job, brother.
Thank you. You learned a little bit more about me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So what's going on this weekend?
I'm heading out to California. There's a CEO summit out there. We're going to meet with a bunch of entrepreneurs and talk about growing our companies and, hiring people, everything else. So yeah, I'm going to be out near Huntington Beach, California, starting tomorrow, my friend. Can't wait.
Well, tell them I said hi. So
I will. I'll do that.
All right. And that's another wrap of the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. I'm Steve Brown, your co-host here. Be sure to go get the Marketing to Mindstate's book, so that you can grow from these insights and connect better with your clients. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week, everybody.
Bye.